But one thing is for sure, the immigrants, when I talk to them, know full well that everything's going to get paid for and taken care of when they're here. They all say it out loud. They all are coming for it on purpose. They're making the decisions to go to different cities based on what those cities are giving them.
Guess who's back again? It's Todd Bensman. I told you we were going to have him back again. I just could not stop speaking with him because he is an expert on what is happening at the border. And it's not just about numbers. He's not just talking about, 5 million, even though those are important and numbers are very important. He's talking about the why, the who, what, where, when, right? Any great investigative journalist, who, what, where, when, follow the money, right? Follow the money, find out what's going on, find out who's involved. And that's exactly what Todd Bensman is doing. That is what I have done during my career. But I'm telling you, Todd is out there. He's in Mexico, working in Mexico consistently. He's working in the United States. He works on the border with our law enforcement officials. And I got to tell you that if you haven't told all your friends about this, if you haven't told your family about this, they're missing out. These 2 episodes, if you haven't heard part 1, you need to hear part 1. But if you haven't heard them, they are essential and vital to what is happening to our nation and what is happening to our families and our future and our communities. This is not just about numbers at the border, folks. This is about a transformation of our country. And I'm talking to Todd about those big questions. The questions that you want answered, the questions that you rarely get an answer to, because the media is refusing to talk about it. The media is refusing to educate you on this. And many times the media is refusing because they have an ideological reason for doing that. And because they agree with this open borders policy, this crazy open borders policy implemented by the Biden administration. And by the way, by others in the past, but never so much as what President Joe Biden and his administration is doing now. And here is part 2 of our conversation about the wide open southern border and why you need to be concerned about it with Todd Bensman, because he actually answers some of those questions. Why are our leaders allowing this to happen? Why is our border wide open? Why are millions of people without any real background checks pouring into our nation, even though we know some of those people are nefarious, some of those people are connected to terrorism, some of those people have criminal records? Why is this happening? Wait until you hear what Todd Bensman has to say. But first, I want to talk to you about Fast Growing Trees, a sponsor of the Sarah Carter Show. They make this happen. Not only do I love them and I love planting and I love being out in my garden and being there with my daughter and my husband and my children, but they allow the Sarah Carter Show to bring you great people like Todd Bensman and to give the truth, to tell the truth. But right now, I want you to take a break. Just listen to what I have to say. Take a break from the truth and listen to what Fast Growing Trees offers you. It offers you an opportunity to be outside with your family when you don't want to be listening to the news, when you want to just take a break, you want to chill out for a little bit, you want to decorate, you want to spend some time beautifying your yard. You can do that with Fast Growing Trees. And not only that, they'll deliver all these plants and trees directly to your front door. And they have a 30-day Thrive guarantee, or you'll get your money back. That's how awesome this company is. And you also have your own special nursery assistant. Yeah, get this. So you're on there, you figure out like what region you live in, and the website will actually help you select the right plants. So you're going to have a green thumb no matter what, right? And with their Alive and Thrive guarantee, 30-day money back guarantee, you just can't go wrong, folks. Join over 1.5 million happy Fast Growing Tree customers. Go to fastgrowingtrees.com/Carter now to get 15% off your entire order. Get 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com/Carter. That's again, fastgrowingtrees.com/Carter. And we're back with Todd Bensman with the Center for Immigration Studies. And Todd, who worked as well with Texas Department of Public Safety in their counterterrorism division. Here is somebody who has had access to the most classified information about our border. And he's warning us that if we don't pay attention to this right now, we are going to be faced with a very serious, serious danger to our nation. How serious do you believe the danger is on a national security level, the way that the Biden administration has handled the border and effectively, not handled it?
My first book is called America's Covert Border War. And that book is all about the special interest alien and all about the secret counterterrorism programs that we stood up as a nation. Because remember, when I left journalism, I crossed the police tape, and I was over there and got to see a lot of it and worked on that from the other side too. So I have special kind of insight about all of that. The programs, the covert programs that we have in place, I credit in the book with being effective and with really reducing the prospect that somebody would cross the border and go shoot up a shopping mall or drive a vehicle into a crowd of Christmas shoppers or whatever. And they were good programs. But when the Biden administration came into office and triggered this mass surge of never-ending mass migration, the greatest in U.S. history, millions and millions of people crossing over, I started to see evidence that my covert border war programs that I wrote about are like off the rails now, that nobody's doing them. Or that they're doing them in diminished capacity, kind of skip tracing over, important parts of it. And so because of that, I feel like the threat is elevated to a point that we've never seen it before. I'm not saying that, oh my God, the terrorists are coming. It's just that our capacity to use these really brilliant programs that we had in place down there to stop them and reduce that risk is diminished. I'll just give you a couple of quick examples if I have time. One piece that I wrote was about a Lebanese-born Venezuela who swam over from Matamoros to Brownsville in December 2022. And he flagged on the watch list. It's going to be a Hezbollah guy. FBI goes down there. This is all part of the covert border war, does the interviews face-to-face, eyeball to eyeball. They do their, intelligence collection, the things that we used to do when I was with Texas DPS. And they found high derogatory intelligence. He's a high threat, a high risk of flight. And the FBI recommended that he be held probably for deportation. We will typically deport those people, but they never did. Somebody in DC intervened and ordered him released. And he went to Dearborn to pursue an asylum claim. He's free, as far as I know, still free to this day pursuing his asylum claim. And the reason they released him is because he was overweight and they thought that he was at threat of catching COVID. So that guy's running around doing whatever, nobody knows. I wrote the piece. I wrote several pieces about it. Certain members of Congress were demanding information about it. They were ignored. My story was ignored. The case that you just talked about with the Egyptian, that's evidence of a breakdown in America's covert border war. I have a similar case, a Yemeni. Somebody slipped me the bolo on that also. That gives the whole thing. The Mexicans released him. It's part of flushing their detention centers. It was overcrowded and nobody knew where he went. He was on the watch list. And the bolo was like, hey, be on the lookout for this guy. So, and I have many more of those. Fox News wrote a piece or published a piece about one who got through the border and he was 2 weeks gone before they realized that his fingerprints matched the FBI watch list. And they had to go on this huge manhunt and everything to track where'd he go. And they, thank God, found him in Florida and brought him back. But the point I'm trying to make overall is that that kind of stuff didn't happen when things were normal. One last thing, the there's so many SIAs coming in now. We don't even call them SIAs, but that there was a need for a Muslims only shelter for immigrants in Mexico. And they set one up in Tijuana within 2 blocks of the wall. I went to that place. I investigated it. I interviewed the immigrants that were staying there. I interviewed the director of this shelter. Ordinarily, in a normal time, the Mexicans would be on that thing like, like you wouldn't believe. The FBI would be, I mean, everybody, all this, the 3-letter people would be all over that place. I know for a fact they would. But the director said she had never once been contacted by either the Americans or the Mexicans about anybody that stayed at that shelter. And she even said, I have all their records. I keep all their information. I photocopy all their ID documents of everybody who stays here. If anybody wants something from me, I'm happy to give it to them. But nobody's ever asked me for anything. That is an example of the America's covert border war that has collapsed in the face of this thing. So yeah, I'm worried about it.
Todd, yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, Todd, this is exactly what I was afraid of before. Now we're seeing it at such an enormous security challenges because we have so many gottaways. I mean, and these are known gottaways in our country. These are the people that we're talking about now that they know about. But what about all the people we don't know about? And I want to ask you this. If our government is allowing this to happen, if our 3-letter agencies are not doing the job that they need to do to investigate this, to preempt this, then this is me working all these years, covering the wars in Afghanistan, covering, just like you, the intel community. It's either a dereliction of duty or they want something to happen. I don't know what else to say there, because there's only 2 choices now. Either it's a dereliction of duty and they do not want to do their jobs. That means that our executive branch is failing to protect the national security of our country. Or on the other hand, this is their plan. What other options are there? Am I not seeing it correctly?
I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt on that it's on purpose, because for one thing, if there is a terror attack through the southern border at some point, that's maybe one of the only catalyzing kinds of events that would actually force a crackdown on the border and all these policies. And I think they want that more. It's like the Mexican government. I write all over my book, America's Covert Border War, that the Mexicans were very, very good partners with the FBI and with the intelligence community on this issue. Not because they were so worried about Americans getting attacked, but that they were worried that the Americans would shut the border down if one happened, and they wouldn't get remittance money, and trade would be affected, and those kind of things. It's all self-interest. I can't imagine that even the Biden Democrats would want something like that to happen. It would be. But I do believe that there is a dereliction of duty here. I don't think that they are paying attention to this. I don't think that they think that this is an issue, even though we've had, I think, close to 200 people on the FBI watch list apprehended now that we know about, or certainly, I think it's close to 200, maybe just shy of 200, against the backdrop of 1.7 million gottaways, which is an all-time record for this country. We have never had gottaways anywhere near these numbers. So if we caught 200 of them, hey, great. And some people will even say, what are you worried about? We caught them, which overlooks the obvious problem of the gottaways. 1.7 million people got away. I have to assume, we all should assume, any prudent, reasonable person must assume that that among them are going to be people on that watch list. And surely will be people who deserve to be on that watch list, but they're not on it yet.
I got to tell you, I agree with you. I believe it is a dereliction of duty. I don't believe that there's a conspiracy for anything to happen in the United States, but I do believe that dereliction of duty leads to a very lackadaisical attitude towards the safety and security of Americans. And it would be shameful to see another 9/11 commission. I covered Afghanistan. I know you are very familiar with the Afghanistan war as well and your coverage of terrorism. And I remember talking to people in Panjshir Valley, and they would say to me, when Massoud was warning the CIA, the great Massoud, the Afghan leader who was killed by Al-Qaeda in an attack right before 9/11. It was like days before 9/11, he was blown up by a group posing as journalists. I had actually some friends that were in that group, and they thought these folks were journalists too. I mean, they didn't know. And Massoud warned the CIA. He warned people over and over again. Afghan sources warned over and over again, hey, look, something's coming. There's an imminent attack. Something's going to happen. Everybody ignored it. We lost American lives. We spent 20 years in America's longest war because of dereliction of duty. And we have 9/11 that changed the entire course of world history. What's going to happen, in your opinion, Todd, because you are an expert, I consider you an expert in this field. What is going to happen if or when there is another attack? Because I think as an American, I would be livid if there was just another 9/11 style commission and everybody's talking about it and how we're going to make things better, when we know that what they are doing is a failure to protect our country.
I mean, I have to say that, I'm not a big optimist that the right things would happen anymore. I think that probably the media would do its best to kind of, ignore where the guy came from or the people, how that they crossed the border to do it. That probably will not figure into coverage. To kind of keep things going the way they would be. But there's an active case right now, just wrapped up. Actually, we're waiting for sentencing. An Iraqi asylum seeker, you probably know about this, maybe not, who got rolled up by the FBI just a few months ago or late last year, who was planning to bring at least 4 of his Al-Qaeda terrorist buddies over the southern border to assassinate former President George Bush. This was a real plot. This was not some kind of like a sting or anything. They actually had terrorists who were going to come through Brazil and then up through the border. What this shows is that the bad guys know our border is a mess and that it's probably an easier way to get in than all these other ways of that, like the 9/11 hijackers took. That case right there, I've written several times about that case, is a real eye-opener. But nobody's writing about it. It's a huge terrorism case in its own right. But the fact that it had crossing the southern border was its central tactic to make it happen doesn't really compute anywhere. Nobody wants to talk about that. They never want to talk about that. I don't think
It's almost like you're talking about UFOs,
right?
And it's real. It's real. It's like you're talking about something that's so real. But they're making it seem like you're a conspiracy. You're shouting conspiracies. Here is a president of the United States of America. God bless him, President Bush and his family, and he was the target of a terrorist plot,
right? To come over the border.
To kill an American president. Allegiance Gold, gold and silver allow you to protect what you've worked so hard for. And by the way, they give you back the control and the privacy that you need, because obviously we know that the government is directly involved many times in what we are doing. We saw that during COVID. We saw what happened even in Canada. And we've seen here in the United States with woke banks pushing people out that they don't like. Well, don't let that happen anymore. Diversify your funding. Go to Allegiance Gold. And right now you can get $5,000 of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you tell them that Sara sent you. My friends at Allegiance Gold can help protect your IRA, your 401k with physical gold and silver, or have it delivered securely right to your front door. Allegiance Gold has the highest ratings in the industry, 5 stars with TrustLink, AAA rated with the Business Consumer Alliance. And guess what? They have an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. Get $5,000 of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you tell them that Sara sent you. So don't wait. Call or click today. 877-702-7272. That's 877-702-SARA, SARA, or go to protectwithsara.com. We can't control the Biden administration, folks, but we can prepare. 877-702-7272. That's 877-702-SARA, SARA, or protectwithsara.com. On my show, we're not afraid to take the deep dive and to expose the truth, whatever that may be, on the border, on COVID, on anything else. I'm willing to go as far away to Israel to get the truth to you. And that means so much to me. And it means so much to me that you're a part of my life. Thank you so much for all that you do. If you want more episodes just like this, if you want to go on adventures with me to Israel and other parts of the world, please subscribe to my channel on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. It really does make a difference. I'm going to ask you this question. You know, CBP put on Twitter just recently in May that claims that migrants will be provided free travel and transportation to their destination are false. The U.S. government does not provide help or financial support for non-citizens. That in and of itself is a lie, because I see them on buses all the time going to different states, and we know that security is on that bus and they're getting paid. We know that we got a bus driver driving them, they're being paid, and we know that they're transporting them and that the migrants are not paying for that transport.
Right. So it's complicated. Some of it has to do with the demographic of the immigrant. For example, unaccompanied minors, which have been a huge, huge percentage of the mass migration crisis because we exempted them, Biden exempted them from Title 42 pushbacks on Inauguration Day. And even the new tough program that they supposedly put in still just exempts unaccompanied minors. So naturally, we've had about 400,000 unaccompanied minors come in. When we take possession of them, we do pay for everything. Those hundreds of thousands of unaccompanied minors want for nothing. We take care of them in ORR, Health and Human Services facilities until we can, and I mean, we give them everything, including free dental. We give them a full medical and education and healthcare, food, everything that they need while they're in detention. And then we act like, travel agents. We track down their family members, and then we will fly them at government expenses to their family members or foster care provider or whoever. Those are the
just somebody who claims to be their family member because we don't even know.
Well, that's a whole other novel. But the point I'm making is that those are government funded flights. Those are ICE Air chartered flights that are taking them all over the country in the middle of the night, landing at. That's taxpayer money right there. A lot of the buses that you see, they're, the conveyor belt, they're getting on the buses. The migrants do pay their own tickets for those. I've seen those. I've been down there in those operations. The NGOs down there just facilitate the purchase of these, and they arrange for the charter buses. But it's not like it's hugely expensive. It's like a couple $100 to go somewhere for their bus fare. But there are other.
Well, and what about the ones that are leaving the state of Texas because Governor Abbott was like, I'm not going to have all these migrants staying here. So state of Texas is picking up the bill.
They do pick up. They will pick up those. So there's some that get paid. There's some that don't. One thing that people don't understand or very widely is once they are arrived in a place like, I'm going to pick New York or Chicago. Those cities will then pay for everything. And they put them on the local medical insurance for indigent people. They put them on, they give them dental, they give them food subsidies and housing, everything. And ultimately, taxpayers at the local level will pick that up. But then I think they're asking for federal bailout. So then it'll end up being federal tax dollars that go to reimburse the states. That's what I mean by it's a little bit complicated. But one thing is for sure, the immigrants, when I talk to them, know full well that everything's going to get paid for and taken care of when they're here. They all say it out loud. They all are coming for it on purpose. They're making the decisions to go to different cities based on what those cities are giving them. And California is one of the biggest providers of everything that you need for as long as you want it. In New York, they're putting them up in 5-star hotels.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're bitching about getting put out. It's time to leave. You can't stay here for years. And then they're protesting that they're being moved to another free place that's clean and nice with all their food and medical needs taken care of. And this is going to go on for years, Sarah. This is not ending anytime soon. The numbers are in the billions and billions of dollars for taxpayer money. Sometimes they pay their own way. Sometimes the government's kicking in. It just depends on who, what nationalities, where they're going.
It's absolutely incredible. And I only have 2 more quick questions, and I promise I'm going to set you free. One, why is President Biden and why is Mayorkas doing this? Why are they doing this? And then 2, what can we as citizens do to counter this, to say something, to take back our country from this reckless government spending and from these reckless government actions?
So I get asked this probably more than anything else. Why are they doing it? Because it's just befuddling. I mean, this is just not even regular Democrats have ever done anything like this. This is truly, they've lost their senses, the Democrats on this. I hear the theory all the time and respect it. I don't reject it out of hand that, they're bringing in for future Democratic voters, et cetera. But I go with something a little bit more simple, probably because of my cynical journalism career. 23 years as a newspaper guy. I'm just this old school. I've just seen this thing happen over and over and over again, where the recipients and beneficiaries of government contracts and largesse and money are the ones that are pushing for policies that will give them that largesse and money. And I believe, I believe that it's as simple as that. Most of the White House advisors, DHS, State Department, advisors that are behind these crazy policies come directly from what I call the non-governmental, migrant advocacy industrial complex, for lack of a better term. That there is this constellation of NGOs, of immigrant help groups that wanted mass migration, so that they could then go to the government and get their $250 million federal contract to help manage this terrible crisis that they fomented. There are billions of dollars going directly into these NGOs. All of them are getting a piece of it, subcontracted pieces, subcontracted pieces. And the ones that aren't getting federal grants and that sort of thing can go out into the open marketplace with a cute picture of a cute little Haitian kid on the front page and say, help the Haitians, help us help the Haitians. And they're just retail soliciting for donations. Everybody wins in that world for this. And I'm falling back on that. It is kind
Follow
of
the
like,
money.
Right. It is kind
Follow
of like,
the money.
Imagine the people that make tanks and jet fighters getting to be in charge of our war policy, our diplomacy. We would never see a day of peace. It would be just war all day, every year. That's what
Todd, we've seen that happen. We've seen that old playbook. And my husband served in the military. I covered the war. Look, I've seen the R&D, research and development. I've seen the revolving door at the Pentagon and the nonstop crazy contracts that weren't going anywhere. It was like contracts in the sky and, billions of dollars of unaccountable money. I mean, Cigar special, the special investigative, IG group investigating proved that.
Yeah. And
I agree with you.
If you want to keep the money flowing, you must keep the people flowing.
That is a point. That is a very, very true, simple, great point. If you want to keep the money flowing, this is why you're on the show, Todd. You want to keep the money flowing, you got to keep the people flowing.
Yep.
And I think some of that money, if we look hard enough, and some of my sources have told me this, ends up back in the coffers of some of the candidates that are running for office in groups that
you can count on it. You can count on it, and you can also count on a couple of other things that when those people retire from government service, people like Alejandro Mayorkas, and in my book, I've got a whole chapter I'm naming all these different advisors that are actually working on these policies. They're all going to end up with, 7-figure salaries when they go back to the nonprofit private sector when this is all over. They're going to get their rewards one way or another. I'll be watching Mayorkas, what he ends up doing after government service, because they owe him big.
Wow, Todd, this has been one of the most insightful, best conversations I have had about the border in the longest time, maybe any time, I think, other than when I'm on the ground talking directly to, migrants or government officials or, law enforcement or intel. It is truly eye-opening. I think the work that you do is brilliant. I think that you are, you are really educating the American public on this. I want everybody to listen. I want them to get your book, because I think this is so important. And then I want you to answer, where can we go to, maybe get our lawmakers to listen to try to direct change when it comes to this, so that our government can stop filling their pockets at the expense of the American people. First, Overrun: How Joe Biden Unleashed the Greatest Border Crisis in U.S. History. Everybody get this book if you want to know what's really going on at the border. 100%. This is a man who works and does due diligence and is on the ground reporting the truth. And as for your advice to everyone who's listening now, what do you think, Todd? What do we need to do?
Well, unfortunately, my answer to that, nobody's ever gratified by my answer to this, but grit your teeth and wait it out. Because really, this is because we have a divided Congress. The power on immigration falls to the White House and to a certain extent the judiciary. Our legislative branch is out of the picture on this for the most part. And so it's going to be that way if Republicans enter the White House. This thing can be ended in a day, maybe 2 days. It can be ended as quickly as it started, with a few policies, a few tweaks. This is not complicated rocket science at all, in my opinion. So, back candidates that want to do that, if that's what you want. Back candidates that, if you are all about open borders, great, go for it. But if you want to end this, you got to back the candidates and demand accountability for following through on whatever it was that you promised. Education is super important. Right now, the U.S. media has abdicated its journalistic duty. Super fun for me, and probably people like Sara. I love owning a story, a great, sexy story like this. Being the only one down in the whatever, seeing it all right in front of you. But as much as I enjoy that, I know it's not good for America. So you have to find information and make sure that your lawmakers know this information and act on the information. My book is a place to start. It's a good place to start. There are very few good sources of information about what's going on the border right now. They have abdicated their duty completely. I was just down there last week in a press area that was designated for the press. all day long, and I'm watching immigrants being brought through right in front of me, just coming over the river. They shouldn't have been there. And I was the only one in this press area down in Eagle Pass the whole day. Nobody's down there. I almost never see any U.S. media or reporters on the Mexican side. And that's a terrible thing for the country. So, but there is some information out there that you can get from me, and there are other people. Sara is covering this, and Fox News is doing an okay job too down there when they're there. But if it wasn't for Fox News, I think there'd be like nobody down there.
Agreed. That is the only, and I am just stunned that with such a huge story, such an important time in our history in America and what's going on right now, that we have, as a media, have utterly failed the American people on this, other than you, Todd, and a few others like Bill Malhusian or Griff or I when we're down there. Very few, there are other reporters down there too, but a lot of them are just independent journalists that are trying to get the word out.
And they're political. They can be political too. I mean, some of the journalists that are down there have an agenda and all that, but whatever. I mean, there's a lot of video. And I think video really helps cut through whatever partisanship. Video's video, man. And
yeah, it's totally, it's what we need. We need to get the truth out there, and thank God, maybe we can utilize, as difficult as it is, social media to get the word out there. Thank you so much, Todd, for being a part of the Sara Carter Show. And thank you so much for everything that you do. I hope to bring you back on. I know your schedule's very busy, like mine, but I really hope you come back on the show and update us with all the work that you're doing.
I will, and I will be going down to that border again here. Nobody else is down there, and it's ginning back up. Whatever they say, the victory laps that they're claiming, the air fist punches and all that kind of stuff of victory, it's a lie. They are coming, that thing is not ended. They are coming across just as much as before Title 42 ended. So I'm going to be down there, trying to make sense of it.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to be following your stories, and I'm going to be down there with you, I hope, very soon. I'll be returning from Israel after the 20th. I'll be heading out this week, and I hope to get a chance to meet with you in person after that.
That's great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, Todd Bensman, for your great journalism and your great investigations and sharing that with the world. I cannot wait to bring you back on. It's going to be amazing. So as you're hearing this, I'm actually in the air and about to land in Israel. I'm so excited. This is my first time heading to Israel. I know I've traveled a lot of the Middle East, believe it or not. I've not been to Israel. This is exciting. I'm going to be bringing you podcasts from Israel as well. And I'll be posting a lot on my Instagram. So please, please, please go to my Instagram at SCarterDC, and on Twitter at Sara Carter DC, and on Truth at Sara Carter Official, where you'll see all the latest on what's happening in Israel. I'm going to be spending a lot of time on the Israeli border, learning about what we need to do to strengthen our own border. And I think that's just pretty simple. Let's follow the law and have a government that actually wants to protect its citizens. Folks, thank you so much for joining me. God bless you. God bless our great nation. God bless the great nation of Israel. And God bless the great state of Texas. I can't wait to get back home too. Thank you.